Hello and welcome to Next Level English. Today we're going to tell the inspiring story of boxing legend Mike Tyson and how his life changed after prison. When Mike Tyson walked out of prison in 1995, he wasn't just walking into freedom. He was stepping into a world that had changed. Once the youngest heavyweight champion in history, Tyson had become a symbol of both glory and destruction. His return to society wasn't celebrated by all. Some saw him as a villain, others as a fallen hero. But for Tyson, it was something else entirely, a second chance. In his first days of freedom, Tyson stayed quiet. He avoided the spotlight, surrounded himself with only a few trusted people, and spent hours alone, thinking. The man who once roared in the ring now spoke in a whisper. He knew the world doubted him, but deep down, he wasn't thinking about fame or belts anymore. He was thinking about redemption. His first stop was the gym. Not a luxurious one, but a dusty, quiet space filled with echoes of hard work and sweat. Tyson stood in front of the mirror, gloves in hand. The reflection staring back wasn't Iron Mike. It was a man trying to rebuild. Each punch he threw wasn't just against the bag, it was against his past, his mistakes, his demons. While the world watched in silence, Tyson trained, day after day. His body remembered the rhythm, but his mind struggled with the weight of his past. He often asked himself, "Can I ever be more than my mistakes?" Slowly, he began to emerge. He gave interviews, cautious, measured, thoughtful. He apologized, not just with words, but with action. He started talking about mental health, about pain, about regret. People started to listen. One of the first who truly believed in him again was his former trainer. He said, "Mike, your story isn't over. It's just beginning." Tyson didn't just train to fight in the ring. He trained to fight the judgment, the media, and the doubt that came with his name. Every step he took was about rebuilding trust, not just with the world, but with himself. Eventually, a comeback fight was announced. Critics called it a bad idea. Fans were unsure. But Tyson entered the ring not to prove he was the best again, but to show that broken people can rise. When the bell rang and Tyson moved forward, it wasn't just muscle memory, it was courage. Every jab was a message. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. He didn't need to win that fight to prove something. The real battle was already happening, and he was winning it. The night of Mike Tyson's comeback fight was electric. The crowd roared, cameras flashed, and millions watched from home. But inside Tyson's mind, there was a strange calm. He wasn't chasing belts or fame anymore. He was chasing peace. As the final bell rang, Tyson's gloves dropped to his sides. He didn't win by knockout, but the cheers told a different story. People weren't just applauding his punches. They were applauding his return, his courage, his transformation. After the fight, Tyson sat alone in his locker room. Sweat poured from his body, but he wasn't tired. He stared into space, thinking, "Who am I now?" he asked himself. The answer didn't come easily. Fame had once defined him. Rage had fueled him. Now he wanted something different. Balance, purpose, maybe even happiness. In the months that followed, Tyson stayed active, but not just in the gym. He began reading more. He explored philosophy, religion, and psychology. "I used to fight people," he said in an interview. "Now, I fight my ego." His voice was softer now. His words carried more weight. People around him noticed the change. He became more open about his past, about his fears, his loneliness, his childhood trauma. He didn't hide from the truth anymore. He embraced it. And then, something unexpected happened. Tyson was invited to speak at a youth center in New York. At first he was nervous. What could he offer? Why would young people listen to someone with such a dark past? But when he walked into that room and saw the kids, many from tough neighborhoods just like he was, he understood. He wasn't there as a celebrity, he was there as proof. Proof that pain didn't have to define you, that mistakes didn't have to destroy you. He stood in front of them raw and real. "I've done a lot of things I regret," he said. "But I'm still here. I'm still learning. And you can too." The room was silent. From that day forward, Tyson began speaking more often. At schools, recovery centers, even prisons, he became a different kind of fighter. A fighter for growth, for change, for healing. He also reconnected with old friends, made peace with enemies, and started rebuilding broken relationships. One of the most emotional moments came when he visited the grave of Cus D'Amato, his old trainer and father figure. Tyson stood there, silent, tears rolling down his face. "I'm trying to be the man you believed I could be," he whispered, and he was on his way. After years of chaos, pain, and personal battles, Mike Tyson was beginning to find something he had never truly known: purpose. His fists were no longer his only weapon. His voice, his story, and his lessons had become just as powerful. Tyson launched a podcast called Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. At first, people were skeptical. Could the once raging fighter really host deep conversations? But when the episodes aired, fans were shocked. Tyson wasn't just talking about boxing, he was talking about fear, trauma, healing, forgiveness, and even love. His guests ranged from rappers and fighters to scientists and spiritual teachers. Tyson listened closely, asked honest questions, and shared openly. His vulnerability surprised many. He admitted to crying during interviews. He spoke about his late daughter, Exodus, with heartbreaking honesty. "There's nothing harder than losing a child," he said in one episode. "But pain teaches you things that success never could." In his personal life, Tyson was also transforming. He had married again and was trying to be a better husband and father. He spent more time at home, growing vegetables in his backyard, playing with his kids, and meditating daily. The former heavyweight champion had become a peaceful man, well, as peaceful as someone like Tyson could be, but the fighter inside him was still alive. In 2020, at the age of 54, Tyson made headlines again. He was returning to the ring for an exhibition match. The world held its breath. Would it be sad? Embarrassing? Dangerous? The answer came loud and clear. No. The match against Roy Jones Jr. wasn't about violence. It was about respect. Two legends sharing the ring, showing that age doesn't erase greatness. Tyson moved with surprising speed. He fought with control, grace, even joy. After the fight, he smiled and said, "I feel better now than I did at 30. But this time, it wasn't about proving himself. It was about proving what was possible. That redemption is real. That the past doesn't have to define your future. That you can rise, no matter how far you've fallen." He started speaking to more youth groups, more podcasts, and even began writing a new book. Not about boxing, but about life, about pain, about transformation. People began to see Mike Tyson differently. Not as the baddest man on the planet, but as a man who had faced his demons and lived to tell the tale. A man who went from prison to peace, from rage to reflection, from chaos to calm. And his story wasn't over yet. Hello, and welcome to Next Level English. As Mike Tyson moved deeper into his new life, a surprising transformation was taking place. The man once known for knocking out opponents in seconds was now being called a philosopher. It wasn't a title he gave himself, but one his fans started using. On his podcast and in interviews, Tyson spoke with unexpected depth. He quoted ancient thinkers. He talked about ego, death, the nature of happiness. He once said, "I used to think being tough was about hurting others. Now I think it's about loving yourself enough to forgive." He also became deeply interested in spirituality. Tyson began speaking openly about his experiences with psychedelics like psilocybin mushrooms and toad venom, 5-MeO-DMT. While controversial, he described them as life-changing. "It humbled me," he said. "It made me see that I'm not just Mike Tyson, the boxer. I'm just a man, a small part of something much bigger." This inner journey brought him peace, and it brought him fans who never watched boxing. Young people started quoting Tyson on social media. Artists began sampling his words and songs. Even psychologists referenced his emotional honesty. But Tyson didn't leave his past behind completely. He remained connected to boxing, training young fighters, and even mentoring troubled youth. He told them, "I've been where you are, I've made mistakes, big ones, but you can come back, you can be more." Tyson also explored acting. He appeared in movies and TV shows, not as the violent guy, but often as a funny, self-aware version of himself. He was laughing at his own legend, and people loved it. At the same time, he was building a business empire. His cannabis company, Tyson 2.0, became wildly successful. But he didn't just sell products. He used the company as a platform to talk about mental health, healing, and second chances. "People think weed is about getting high," he said. "But for me, it was about coming down, calming the storm inside." Despite everything, Tyson never claimed to be perfect. He admitted he still had bad days, still struggled with anger, still missed the man he used to be sometimes. But that honesty only made people admire him more. He had become a symbol, not just of strength, but of growth, of what it means to truly change. And while his fists once made him famous, it was his heart and his words that were now inspiring a new generation. The world had watched Mike Tyson fall. Now it was watching him rise, not as a fighter, but as a guide. Not as a hero, but as a human being. And his journey still wasn't finished. Years had passed since Mike Tyson last stepped into the ring as a professional fighter. Yet, his presence in the world was stronger than ever. Not through punches, but through purpose. By now, Tyson was a regular speaker at schools, prisons, and recovery centers. His voice, once feared, was now used to uplift others. "Your past doesn't define you," he told one crowd. "What you do with your pain, that's what matters." He had become a living example of transformation, and people listened not because he was perfect, but because he was real. One of Tyson's proudest moments came not in front of an audience, but at home, with his children. For years, he had feared they would only know Iron Mike, the boxer with demons. But now they saw their father as someone who had battled those demons and won. "I want to be remembered," he told a friend, "not for the titles I won, but for the man I've become." Outside the home, Tyson's podcast Hot Boxin' with Mike Tyson grew into a global platform. He interviewed athletes, scientists, actors, even spiritual teachers. And every time he brought the same raw honesty. One guest said, "You don't talk at people, Mike. You talk with them." Meanwhile, Tyson's businesses continued to thrive. He used his success to fund community programs, addiction treatment, and youth mentorship. His mission was clear: give back what was once taken from him, hope. But it wasn't always easy. There were still critics, still painful memories, still temptations to go backwards. Tyson didn't pretend otherwise. He just kept moving forward. And then came the documentary, Tyson, Beyond the Ring. The world watched his life unfold in a way few had seen. It was raw, emotional, transformative. For many, it was the final piece that turned a controversial figure into a respected one. By the end of the film, viewers weren't talking about knockouts. They were talking about healing, redemption, growth. Mike Tyson had become more than a fighter. He was now a storyteller, a survivor, a symbol of human potential. His legacy, once written in violence, had been rewritten in vulnerability. And that, perhaps, was his greatest victory.